Jake Sullivan stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the alien delegates whisper among themselves. The massive room buzzed with tension, and Jake could feel hundreds of eyes from dozens of different species staring at him. Some had multiple eyes, others had compound vision, but they all shared the same look of disgust when they looked at the human representative. Ambassador Zexthor of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his floating platform, his silver skin gleaming, under the chamber's bright lights. His voice echoed through the room like thunder as he spoke. "Human Sullivan, your species has been given every chance to prove you belong among civilized races. You have failed." Jake said nothing. He had learned long ago that silence often spoke louder than words in these meetings. The Zephyrians loved dramatic speeches, and interrupting would only make things worse. "Your colonies spread like a disease. Across the outer rim," Zexthor continued, his forearms gesturing wildly. "You take worlds that should belong to established empires. You refuse to follow the proper protocols for expansion. You are nothing more than cosmic parasites." The crystalline hegemony's representative, a being that looked like living diamond, spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The humans show no respect for the natural order. They have been in space for barely 300 years, yet they act as if they own the galaxy." More voices joined in from around the chamber. The Void Hunters complained about human mining operations. The Star Collective accused humans of stealing trade routes. Every major power in the galaxy seemed to have a complaint about humanity's rapid expansion across the stars. Jake waited for the noise to die down before he spoke. "Gentlemen and ladies of the Council, humanity has always followed galactic law. We have never attacked another species' territory. We have never broken any treaties. Our expansion has been completely legal under Council regulations." "Legal, perhaps," Zexthor said with a sneer, "but not welcome. The time has come for your species to learn its place." The Zephyrian leader activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed star maps of human space, with red markers indicating alien fleet positions. Jake counted at least 5 different species with warships positioned around human colonies. "This is our ultimatum," Zexthor announced. "Humanity will abandon all colonies beyond your home system within 72 hours. Your people will return to Earth and remain there. You will accept the protection of the Zephyrian Empire and pay appropriate tribute for our services." Jake felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face calm. "And if we refuse? Then you will face the combined might of 5 galactic powers," the crystalline representative said. "Your pathetic human fleets will be destroyed. Your colonies will be burned. Your homeworld will be conquered." The chamber filled with approving sounds from the alien delegates. Clicks, whistles, and roars of agreement echoed off the walls. Jake realized that this had all been planned in advance. The 5 major powers had already decided humanity's fate. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Lisa Martinez received the emergency transmission in her command center aboard the UHS Endeavour. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hughes, read the message aloud to the bridge crew. "Admiral, we're receiving priority orders from Fleet Command. We're to proceed immediately to coordinates 77 Alpha 99 Tango." Martinez frowned at her star charts. "Those coordinates are in empty space, Commander. Nothing's out there but vacuum." "Yes, ma'am. That's what our sensors show. But the orders are marked as Legacy Protocol activation." The words, Legacy Protocol, made Martinez pause. Every fleet officer knew that term, but none of them knew what it actually meant. It was classified far above her security level, mentioned only in the most secret command briefings. "How long until we reach those coordinates?" she asked. 18 hours at maximum burn, Admiral." Martinez looked around her bridge at the confused faces of her crew. Outside the viewports, she could see the rest of her fleet, 23 of humanity's newest and most advanced warships. They were good ships with skilled crews, but Martinez knew they would be hopelessly outnumbered if the aliens decided to attack. "Set course for the coordinates, Commander, and send a message to all ships in the fleet. Tell them we're following Legacy Protocol orders." On Earth, President Karen White sat in the secure conference room deep beneath the White House. Around the table sat the Joint Chiefs of Staff, their faces grim as they reviewed intelligence reports about alien fleet movements. General Paul Adams slid a tablet across the table to the president. Madam President, our deep space sensors show massive alien formations moving toward human colonies. The Zephyrians alone have over 400 warships in position. President White studied the numbers on the screen. Humanity's entire space fleet consisted of fewer than 200 ships, scattered across dozens of star systems. On paper, it looked hopeless. "Paul, is it time?" she asked quietly. The general nodded slowly. "Legacy protocol is already in motion, Madam President. Admiral Martinez is en route to the first coordinates. Dr. Foster's people are activating the rest of the network." Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her own tablet. As head of the Department of Historical Warfare, she had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. "Madam President, our ancestors planned for this day since we first met aliens. They knew that eventually someone would try to put humanity back in its cage." "How long do we have?" President White asked. "Jake Sullivan is buying us time, General." Adams replied. "He's managed to get the aliens to agree to a 72-hour deadline instead of an immediate attack. Our people need at least 48 hours to fully activate all systems." Dr. Foster activated a holographic display that showed human space from a different perspective. Instead of showing just the official colonies and trade routes, this map included hundreds of additional markers scattered throughout the galaxy. "The aliens think they know where all our assets are," she explained. "They've been watching our public fleet movements for decades, counting our ships, measuring our strength, but they don't know about the Shadow Fleet." President White stared at the display. The markers represented more ships than she had ever imagined humanity possessed. "How is this possible? How did we hide this many vessels?" "The same way we've survived every threat for the past 3 centuries, Dr. Foster said with a slight smile. "We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Jake Sullivan listened to the alien leaders describe how they would divide up human territory after the conquest. The Zephyrians wanted the industrial worlds. The crystalline hegemony claimed the mining colonies. The smaller powers argued over the remaining scraps. Jake checked his watch. 46 hours and 37 minutes remaining. He needed to buy more time. "Honored delegates," he said, standing up slowly. "Humanity requests a brief delay to consider your generous offer." Zexthor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think delay will help you, human? Your fleets are outnumbered 5-1. Your colonies have no defenses worth mentioning. What could you possibly accomplish in a few more hours?" Jake smiled calmly. "We simply need time to prepare our response to your ultimatum. Surely the great powers of the galaxy can afford to wait a little longer before—" He paused dramatically. "Before we show you what humanity has really been doing for the past 2 centuries. Something in Jake's tone made several alien delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats, but Zexthor just sneered and waved a dismissive hand. "Very well, human. You have 48 hours to prepare whatever pathetic response your species can manage. After that, the Zephyrian Empire will demonstrate why we rule this galaxy." As the council session ended and the aliens filed out of the chamber, Jake remained standing in the center of the room. He looked calm and confident, but inside his heart was racing. Everything depended on the next 2 days. Either humanity would finally reveal the secret they had been hiding for centuries, or they would face extinction at the hands of species who had never understood just how dangerous humans could be when their survival was threatened. Admiral Lisa Martinez stared at the empty space on her main viewer, wondering if Fleet Command had made a terrible mistake. Her ships had been traveling for 18 hours straight, burning fuel at maximum speed to reach coordinates that showed nothing but vacuum on every sensor scan. "Admiral, we're at the designated position," Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hughes reported from his station. "All scans show empty space. No ships, no stations, no debris, nothing." Martinez walked to the center of her bridge, feeling the eyes of her crew on her. They had followed her orders without question, but she could see the doubt creeping into their faces. Outside, 22 other human warships held formation, waiting for something to happen. "Commander Steve Johnson, run a deep scan of this entire sector," she ordered. "Look for anything unusual, gravitational anomalies, sensor shadows, Anything that might explain why we're here. Johnson worked at his science station for several minutes before looking up with confusion. Admiral, I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions throughout this area. It's like there are huge objects here, but our sensors can't see them. Martinez felt her pulse quicken. How big are these objects? Some of them are enormous, ma'am. Ship-sized, but much larger than anything in our current fleet, and there are hundreds of them scattered throughout the sector. Martinez opened her secure communications channel and read the activation codes that Fleet Command had given her. The codes were old, using encryption methods that hadn't been used in decades. As she spoke each sequence of numbers and letters, she watched her sensor displays carefully. At first, nothing happened. Then Johnson shouted from his station, "Admiral, something's decloaking off our starboard bow." The main viewer filled with the image of a warship unlike anything Martinez had ever seen. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of her flagship, with thick armor plating and weapon systems that looked both ancient and deadly. The hull was scarred from countless battles, painted in the old Earth colors of blue and white. More ships began appearing around them. Dozens, then hundreds of massive warships materialized from what had seemed like empty space. Each one bore the markings of old Earth nations and carried names that Martinez recognized from history books. "My God," Ryan Hughes whispered. "That's the UHSV Liberty Bell. According to our records, that ship was launched over 200 years ago." Martinez watched in amazement as the ancient fleet revealed itself around her modern ships. These weren't museum pieces or derelict hulks. Every vessel showed signs of constant maintenance and upgrade. Their weapon systems had been modernized, their hulls reinforced, their engines improved beyond their original specifications. A communication signal came from the Liberty Bell. The face that appeared on Martinez's screen belonged to a man in his 50s wearing an old-style Earth Fleet uniform with captain's insignia. "Admiral Martinez, this is Captain Tony Richards of the UHSV Liberty Bell. Welcome to Deep Station 7. Request permission to come aboard your ship." Martinez nodded, still trying to process what she was seeing. "Permission granted, Captain. We'll prepare to receive you in Docking Bay 2. 20 minutes later, Captain Richards stepped off his shuttle and into Martinez's ship. He moved with the confidence of a man who had spent decades in space, but there was something else in his eyes, a weariness that came from carrying secrets for too long. "Captain, I have to ask," Martinez said as they walked toward her briefing room. "How long have you been out here?" 231 years, Admiral. My crew and I have been maintaining this fleet in rotating stasis shifts. 6 months awake, 18 months asleep. We've been waiting for this day since we first went dark." They entered the briefing room where Martinez's senior officers had gathered. Captain Richards activated a holographic display that showed the true scope of what surrounded them. "What you see here is the first wave of the Shadow Fleet," he explained. 312 vessels, all built during the paranoid period after first contact. While Earth was publicly promoting peace and cooperation, we were secretly preparing for war. Commander Johnson leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, our history books say these ships were scrapped decades ago. How did you keep them hidden?" Richards smiled grimly. "Official records show they were scrapped. In reality, they were moved to hidden bases throughout human space. Every ship you see here has been continuously upgraded with the latest technology, while maintaining the appearance of obsolete vessels." Dr. Janet Parker, the fleet's chief historian, stepped forward. She was a woman in her 40s, with the pale complexion of someone who had spent years in deep space. "Admiral Martinez, humanity learned something important after first contact. Every other species in the galaxy follows predictable patterns. They build flashy ships, expand quickly, and rely on their technological superiority. They never expect a species to spend centuries preparing for a single moment." Martinez looked at the display showing hundreds of ancient warships. "How many ships are we talking about total?" Captain Richards exchanged a look with Dr. Parker before answering. "What you see here is just the beginning. Throughout human space, hidden in asteroid fields, nebulae, and behind sensor shadows, we have approximately 15,000 combat vessels." The room fell silent. Martinez felt her heart skip a beat. 15,000 ships meant humanity had been building a secret war fleet larger than the combined navies of most alien empires. Every battle humanity has fought, every conflict we've observed, every tactical manual from every species we've encountered, Dr. Parker continued. All of it has been studied and incorporated into these fleets. While other races saw us as naive, newcomers, we were becoming the most dangerous military force in known space. Lieutenant Commander Hughes spoke up from across the table. But Captain, why keep this secret for so long? Why not reveal our strength earlier? Captain Richards stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at his ancient fleet. Because the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know you have. For 2 centuries, alien species have made plans based on what they thought humanity could do. They counted our public ships, measured our known capabilities, and assumed we were weak. They never considered that humans might be better at keeping secrets than they were at making friends, Dr. Parker added with a slight smile. Martinez studied the tactical displays, beginning to understand the scope of what had been hidden from her and every other public fleet officer. What kind of weapons are these ships carrying? Every type of weapon system used by every major galactic power, Richards replied, plus several that we developed ourselves. The Liberty Bell alone carries Zephyrian plasma cannons, crystalline energy shields, Void Hunter stealth systems, and human kinetic accelerators that can punch through any known armor. Dr. Parker activated another display showing ship specifications. Each vessel has been designed and upgraded to counter specific alien military doctrines. We know exactly how every major species fights, and we've built ships specifically to beat them. Martinez realized that everything she thought she knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. How long have you known this day would come? Since the first alien ambassador looked at a human and saw prey instead of a predator, Captain Richards said quietly. Our species has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed others. Did they really think we would go quietly into extinction? The communication system activated, interrupting their conversation. Jake Sullivan's voice came through from the Galactic Council chambers. All Shadow Fleet commanders, this is Ambassador Sullivan. The aliens have rejected our request for additional negotiation time. You have 36 hours until they begin their attack on human colonies. Legacy protocol is now fully active. Captain Richards turned to Admiral Martinez with a look she had never seen before. It was the expression of a man who had spent centuries preparing for war and was finally ready to fight. Admiral, it's time to wake up the rest of the fleet. The aliens wanted to see what humanity has been hiding. Let's show them exactly what we've been preparing for the past 200 years. Martinez looked out at the ancient warships surrounding her modern fleet, finally understanding why her orders had seemed so strange. Humanity wasn't retreating from a fight they couldn't win. They were moving into position for a battle they had been planning since before she was born. Captain Richards, how long until all 15,000 ships can be in position? They already are, Admiral. They've been waiting for this moment for centuries. Martinez smiled for the first time since receiving her orders. The aliens thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had cornered wolves. The alien fleets moved into position around Earth like predators circling wounded prey. Fleet Commander Zexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching his tactical displays with satisfaction. Over 2,000 alien warships from 5 different empires had gathered in the Sol system, ready to crush humanity once and for all. Report from all fleet commanders, Zexthor ordered his communications officer. All forces are in position, Commander. The Crystalline Hegemony has 400 ships positioned near Mars. The Void Hunters have 300 vessels at Jupiter. The Star Collective and the Nexus Alliance have taken positions throughout the outer planets. Total enemy strength detected is 147 human vessels. Zexthor's forearms spread wide in a gesture of triumph. 14-1 odds in our favor. The humans have no chance of survival. On the bridge of the Crystalline Hegemony flagship, Admiral Kethron studied the human fleet positions with growing confidence. The living diamond being had fought humans before in small skirmishes, and they had always seemed weak and unorganized compared to other species. Their ships are scattered and poorly positioned, Kethron observed to his tactical officer. They show no understanding of proper fleet formation. This will be a simple extermination. In the Galactic Council chambers, Jake Sullivan stood before the assembled alien delegates for what everyone assumed would be humanity's surrender. The chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species, all eager to witness the end of human expansion. Ambassador Zexthor appeared on the main communication screen from his flagship. "Human Sullivan, your time has expired. Have you prepared your species' unconditional surrender?" Jake smiled calmly and straightened his jacket. "Actually, Ambassador, I have prepared something quite different. I would like to make a statement to the Council about humanity's true position in this galaxy." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the chamber. Several alien delegates exchanged glances, wondering what the human could possibly say that would matter now. "For the past 230 years, Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, humanity has been studying every species in this galaxy. We have observed your military tactics, analyzed your technologies, and learned from every conflict you have fought." Zexthor's image on the screen showed his growing impatience. "Enough of your speeches, human. Surrender now or face destruction." Jake ignored the interruption and continued. "While you saw us as naive newcomers, we were quietly becoming something else entirely. We have spent centuries preparing for this exact moment when established powers would finally try to put humanity back in its cage." "Ridiculous," the crystalline representative said from the chamber floor. "You have fewer than 200 ships. Our combined fleets number over 2,000. What could you possibly have prepared that would matter?" Jake's smile grew wider. "We prepared the most comprehensive military force in galactic history. While you were building flashy ships for parades and expansion, we were building weapons for war." At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the alien fleet. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Zexthor's tactical officer stared at his displays in shock. "Commander, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Unknown vessels are decloaking everywhere." Zexthor spun around to look at the main display. Where moments before there had been empty space, enormous human warships were materializing by the hundreds. These weren't the sleek modern vessels the aliens had been tracking. These were older, scarred ships built for destruction. "How many?" Zexthor demanded. "I'm counting over 800 vessels, Commander, and more are still appearing." Admiral Kethron watched in growing horror as ancient human dreadnoughts decloaked around his formation. The UHSV Constitution appeared directly ahead of his flagship, its massive guns already trained on his bridge. The UHSV Yorktown emerged from behind Jupiter's moon, its hull bristling with weapon systems that belonged to a dozen different alien technologies. "This is impossible," Kethron whispered. "These ships are over 2 centuries old. They should be museum pieces." Captain Beth Turner, commanding the Constitution, opened a communication channel to the crystalline flagship. "Admiral Kethron, this is Captain Turner of the United Human Shadow Fleet. Your forces are now surrounded and outgunned. I suggest you reconsider your position." Throughout the Sol system, similar scenes played out as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. Captain Greg Miller aboard the UHSV Yorktown positioned his ship to block the Void Hunter retreat route. The massive vessel's stealth systems were more advanced than anything the Void Hunters had ever developed, despite being built 2 centuries earlier. In the Galactic Council chamber, Jake Sullivan watched the alien delegates' faces change from confidence to confusion to fear as reports poured in from their fleets. "As I was saying," Jake continued calmly, "humanity has been preparing for this day since we first learned we were not alone in the universe. Every species that has ever threatened us has been studied, analyzed, and countered." The Void Hunter representative, a creature that looked like living shadow, spoke with a voice like whispers. "Those ships are impossible. Our intelligence shows they were scrapped decades ago. Your intelligence was designed to see what we wanted you to see," Jake replied. "While you were watching our public fleets, we were building our real military in secret. Every asteroid field, every nebula, every dark corner of space became a shipyard for humanity's true power. On the UHSV Gettysburg, Colonel Susan Lewis coordinated the positioning of the human fleet. Her ship, though built over 2 centuries ago, carried command systems that could control thousands of vessels simultaneously. The aliens had never developed anything like it, because they had never needed to coordinate such massive fleets in secret. All fleet commanders, this is Colonel Lewis. We are now in position to demonstrate why humanity has been the galaxy's most successful species at avoiding extinction. Target locks on all alien vessels are confirmed. The alien fleet commanders found themselves facing a nightmare scenario. Every advantage they thought they had was gone. The humans weren't outnumbered. They were outnumbering the aliens nearly 4-1. The human ships weren't primitive. They were carrying the most advanced hybrid technology in the galaxy. Fleet Commander Zexthor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet surrounding him carried weapons from every major species, all integrated into designs that seemed specifically built to counter his own tactics. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "How did you hide so many ships?" Jake Sullivan's voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. "The same way we've hidden our true nature for centuries, Commander. We let you see what you expected to see while we prepared for what we knew would eventually come." The crystalline Admiral Kethran tried to analyze the human fleet formation and realized with growing horror that it was perfect. Every ship was positioned to counter the specific strengths of each alien species. The humans hadn't just built more ships, they had built the right ships. "This is Colonel Lewis broadcasting to all alien forces," came the voice from the Gettysburg. "You have 12 hours to withdraw from human space. Any vessel that remains after that deadline will be considered hostile and will be destroyed." Zexthor opened a channel to the human fleet. "You cannot be serious. Even if you have more ships than we thought, you cannot threaten the combined might of 5 galactic empires." "Commander," Jake Sullivan replied from the council chamber, "you still don't understand what you're facing. The ships you see around you represent only a fraction of humanity's true military capability. We have been building and preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. Impossible, Zexthor said, but his voice lacked conviction. Every battle you have ever fought, we have studied. Every weakness you have ever shown, we have catalogued. Every strength you possess, we have countered. You came here expecting to fight primitive humans with a few dozen ships. Instead, you found the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Admiral Martinez, now commanding the combined human fleet from her position aboard the Constitution, opened a final communication to the alien forces. Alien commanders, you wanted to see what humanity has been hiding. You wanted to test our resolve. You wanted to put us in our place. Her voice carried the authority of someone who finally understood the true scope of human preparation. You are about to learn why every species that has ever threatened humanity's survival has eventually regretted it. The alien fleets hung in space, surrounded by human warships that shouldn't exist, carrying technology that should be impossible, manned by crews that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. Zexthor looked at his tactical display, one more time, counting the human vessels that continued to decloak throughout the system. Over 1,500 ships now surrounded his fleet, with more appearing every minute. For the first time in his military career, the fleet commander of the Zephyrian Empire understood what it felt like to be completely outmatched. "All alien vessels," came the final transmission from the human fleet. "You have 12 hours to begin withdrawal. After that, you will discover why humanity's diplomacy has always been backed by the most dangerous military force in the galaxy." The countdown to H. Fleet Commander Zexthor stared at the 12-hour countdown timer on his bridge display, his forearms trembling with rage. The human ultimatum was an insult to every empire in the galaxy. No species had ever dared to threaten the combined might of 5 galactic powers. "All fleet commanders, this is Zexthor," he broadcast to the alien armada. "These humans think their ancient ships can frighten us. We will show them the price of challenging established empires. All vessels, attack formation. Target the largest human ships first." The alien fleet moved to attack positions. Their commanders, confident that superior numbers and proven technology would overcome whatever surprises the humans had prepared. 2,000 alien warships against 1,500 human vessels. The math seemed simple enough. Admiral Kethran of the Crystalline, Hegemony positioned his diamond ships to strike at the human formation's center. All units focus fire on the vessel designated Constitution. destroy their command ship, and watch their coordination collapse. But as the alien fleets advanced, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't retreat or scatter like most species would when facing overwhelming odds. Instead, they moved with perfect precision, each vessel knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Captain Dan Mitchell aboard the UHSV Bunker Hill watched the Zephyrian forward elements approach his position. His ship was over 200 years old, built during humanity's most paranoid period, but it had been continuously upgraded with the best technology from dozens of species. All weapons, target the Zephyrian flagship, Mitchell ordered calmly. Fire when ready. The Bunker Hill's main guns opened fire, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the alien formation. But these weren't ordinary plasma weapons. Human engineers had spent 2 centuries studying Zephyrian shield technology, learning its weaknesses and developing counters. The plasma bolts punched through the Zephyrian shields like they weren't there, striking the hull of Zexthor's flagship and causing massive explosions across its surface. The alien commander stared in shock as his ship's damage reports flooded in. "Impossible," Zexthor whispered. "Our shield should have stopped those weapons completely." His tactical officer looked up from his station with fear in his eyes. "Commander, their plasma weapons are tuned to the exact frequency that bypasses our shield harmonics. It's like they know our technology better than we do." Throughout the solar system, similar scenes played out as the human fleet demonstrated capabilities that should not exist. Admiral Martinez, coordinating the battle from the Constitution, watched her tactical displays with growing satisfaction. "All fleet commanders execute Battle Plan Prometheus," she ordered. "Show them what 2 centuries of preparation looks like." Captain Beth Turner, commanding the Constitution, engaged the crystalline hegemony forces directly. Her ship's weapons systems switched between different firing modes as the battle progressed, adapting to counter each alien defensive measure in real time. "Captain, their diamond hulls are absorbing our energy weapons," her tactical officer reported. "Switch to kinetic rounds, specifically designed for crystalline structures," Turner replied without hesitation. Fire Pattern 7, the Constitution's guns launched specially designed projectiles that shattered the crystalline ships like glass. Each round had been designed based on centuries of studying captured crystalline technology, engineered to exploit the exact molecular weaknesses in their diamond-based hulls. Admiral Kethrin watched in horror as his fleet dissolved around him. Ships that had seemed invulnerable for millennia were being destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. How do they know our weaknesses so precisely? The answer came from Captain Greg Miller aboard the UHSV Yorktown as he engaged the Void Hunter fleet. The shadow-like aliens had always relied on their superior stealth technology and hive mind coordination, but they found themselves fighting an enemy that predicted their every move. "All Void Hunter vessels, scatter and use stealth protocols," their fleet commander ordered. "They cannot target what they cannot see." But as the alien ships activated their cloaking devices, the human fleet's sensors tracked them perfectly. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Brooks, commanding the Cyber Warfare Division aboard the Yorktown, smiled as her systems penetrated the Void Hunter hive mind network. "Target locks confirmed on all cloaked vessels," she reported to Captain Miller. "Their stealth technology is useless against sensors designed specifically to counter it." The Yorktown opened fire on invisible targets, hitting each cloaked Void Hunter ship with perfect accuracy. The aliens watched in disbelief as their greatest tactical advantage became meaningless against an enemy that had spent centuries learning to see through their deceptions. "This is not possible," the Void Hunter commander transmitted desperately. "Our stealth systems are undetectable," Captain Miller responded calmly. "Nothing is undetectable when you've had 200 years to study it. Humanity has been watching your species fight for centuries. We know every trick you use." The battle was not going as any alien commander had expected. Instead of the quick victory they had planned, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to counter every advantage they possessed. The human ships moved like they were part of a single mind, coordinating their attacks with a precision that no organic species had ever achieved. Captain Tim Roberts, commanding the massive UHSV Leviathan, demonstrated humanity's most terrifying capability as he engaged multiple alien fleets simultaneously. His ship was the size of a small moon, carrying weapon systems that had been built specifically to fight large fleet actions. "All enemy formations, this is Captain Roberts," he broadcast to the alien fleets. "You wanted to see what humanity has been hiding. This is just the beginning." The Leviathan's weapons opened fire in all directions, engaging Zephyrian, Crystalline, and Void Hunter forces at the same time. Each weapon system was designed to counter a specific alien technology, all controlled by artificial intelligence that had been fed combat data from every battle fought in the galaxy for the past 2 centuries. Fleet Commander Zexthor realized, with growing horror, that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that knew his tactics better than he did. Every formation he tried, every strategy he attempted, the humans had already developed a counter for it. "Retreat to minimum safe distance," he finally ordered, watching his fleet casualties climb past 50%. "Regroup and analyze their capabilities." But Admiral Martinez had anticipated this move as well. The human fleet had positioned itself to control every escape route from the solar system. The aliens weren't being allowed to retreat. They were being given a choice between surrender and total destruction. Commander Rachel Lopez aboard the UHSV Valley Forge demonstrated the true scope of human preparation as she engaged the STAR collective forces. Her ship's artificial intelligence had been programmed with tactical data from every species in the galaxy, allowing it to predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. "Enemy formation Alpha 7 is moving to flank our position," the AI reported. "Recommended countermaneuver loaded and ready for execution." "Execute," Lopez ordered, watching as her ship moved to intercept the alien formation before they could complete their attack run. The aliens found themselves under fire from directions they hadn't expected, caught in tactical traps that had been planned centuries in advance. The Star Collective Admiral stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "They're anticipating our moves before we make them. How is this possible?" The answer came from Dr. Janet Parker, broadcasting from the human command ship. "Every battle you have ever fought has been observed and analyzed by human intelligence services. Every tactical manual your species has written has been studied and countered. You are not fighting an enemy. You are fighting 2 centuries of your own military history turned against you." As the battle raged on, it became clear that this wasn't a war between equals. This was a demonstration of what happened when one species spent centuries preparing to fight while others assumed their superiority would be enough. The alien fleets, once numbering over 2,000 ships, had been reduced to fewer than 400 effective vessels, their casualties mounted by the minute as human weapon systems, designed specifically to counter each alien technology, tore through their formations with ruthless efficiency. Fleet Commander Zexthor looked at his remaining ships and realized the truth that every alien commander was beginning to understand. They hadn't been fighting a desperate last stand by primitive humans. They had walked into a trap that had been 2 centuries in the making. "All surviving vessels," he transmitted to what remained of the alien armada, "fall back to rally point. Omega, we need to reconsider our position." Admiral Martinez watched the alien retreat with satisfaction. The battle had lasted less than 6 hours, and humanity had lost fewer than 30 ships while destroying over 1,600 alien vessels. It wasn't a victory. It was a demonstration of absolute superiority. "All human forces, maintain positions," she ordered. "Let them retreat far enough to count their losses. They need to understand exactly what they tried to challenge." The aliens had wanted to put humanity in its place. Instead, they had discovered that humanity's place was at the top of the galactic food chain, and they had been preparing for this revelation for Ovi. The Galactic Council chamber was silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their seats, staring at the damage reports from the Battle of Sol. Numbers scrolled across their personal displays showing losses that seemed impossible to believe. Fleet Commander Zexthor appeared on the main communication screen, his silver skin now pale with shock. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship showed scorch marks and damage from the human weapons that had torn through his shields like paper. "Honored Council," Zexthor said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I formally request immediate ceasefire Negotiations with the human fleet. Our combined forces have suffered 87% casualties. We cannot continue this engagement. Ambassador Jake Sullivan stood in the center of the chamber, his hands clasped behind his back as he had been 24 hours earlier. But everything had changed. The alien delegates who had looked at him with contempt now watched him with fear and growing respect. Ambassador Sullivan, the council speaker said, her voice trembling slightly. The representatives of the 5 allied empires request terms for ending hostilities. Jake nodded calmly. The terms are simple. All alien forces will withdraw from human space immediately. There will be no retaliation against human colonies, and this council will formally recognize humanity's right to expand and defend ourselves as we see fit. Admiral Kethron of the Crystalline Hegemony, his diamond form cracked from battle damage, spoke from his position among the surviving ships. Human, you have made your point. Your species is clearly more powerful than we estimated. But surely you do not expect us to simply forget this humiliation. Jake's expression didn't change. Admiral, what you call humiliation, we call education. For 2 centuries, your species and others have treated humanity as a minor power to be ignored or pushed around when convenient. That ends today. The chamber erupted in whispers and worried conversations as alien delegates processed what they were hearing. The humans weren't just demanding an end to the current conflict. They were reshaping the entire galactic power structure. President Karen White appeared on the communication screens from Earth, addressing the council for the first time since the crisis began. Her presence commanded immediate attention from every delegate in the chamber. Honored members of the Galactic Council, President White said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who now spoke from unquestioned strength. Humanity has never sought to dominate other species. We have always preferred diplomacy to warfare. But we will no longer accept being treated as inferior by empires that have forgotten what real power looks like. On the bridge of the UHSV Constitution, Admiral Martinez coordinated the positioning of the human fleet as alien ships began their withdrawal from human space. The ancient warships that had dominated the battle now served as visible reminders of humanity's true capabilities. Captain Beth Turner, standing beside Martinez, watched the alien retreat with satisfaction. Admiral, our deep space sensors are detecting alien fleets pulling back from all human colonies. The threat to our outer worlds appears to be over. Martinez nodded, then opened a communication channel to Earth. Madam President, this is Admiral Martinez. The Sol system is secure. All alien forces are withdrawing as ordered. Dr. Amy Foster, watching from her position in the Pentagon's command center, updated the official galactic military database. Humanity's entry, which had listed them as a developing spacefaring civilization for over 2 centuries, now required a complete rewrite. Madam President, Dr. Foster said, turning to Karen White, we're receiving surrender requests from alien forces. Throughout human space, the Shadow Fleet commanders are reporting total success in all sectors. President White studied the reports showing the scope of humanity's victory. In every system where aliens had threatened human colonies, hidden human fleets had emerged to demonstrate overwhelming superiority. The galaxy had learned in a single day that humanity was not the weak species everyone had assumed. Dr. Foster, how many ships did we actually deploy? President White asked. Approximately 4,000 vessels, Madam President. Less than 1/3 of our total Shadow Fleet capacity. The President paused, realizing that humanity had achieved total victory while revealing only a fraction of their true military power. The aliens had no idea how outmatched they really were. In the Galactic Council chamber, Jake Sullivan prepared to deliver humanity's final statement to the assembled alien powers. The chamber was quieter than it had ever been, with representatives hanging on every word. Honored delegates, Jake began. Humanity has spent the past 2 centuries preparing for this moment, not because we wanted war, but because we understood that eventually, someone would try to put us back in what they considered our proper place. The Void Hunter representative, one of the few alien commanders to survive the battle with most of his fleet intact, spoke with a voice full of respect that hadn't been there before. Human Sullivan, your species has demonstrated capabilities that we did not know existed. How long have you been preparing for this confrontation? Jake smiled slightly. Since the day we learned we were not alone in the universe, humanity has always been a species that prepares for the worst while hoping for the best. Today, that preparation saved our civilization. Admiral Martinez, now promoted to Supreme Fleet Commander of all human forces, established new patrol routes throughout human space. The ancient warships that had been hidden for centuries now served as visible guardians, their presence ensuring that no species would again mistake human diplomacy for weakness. Captain Tony Richards, back aboard the Liberty Bell, reflected on the long journey from humanity's fearful early days in space to their emergence as a galactic superpower. His ship, built during humanity's most paranoid period, had become the symbol of their greatest triumph. "Captain," his tactical officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. President White is requesting a full fleet review." Richards smiled, thinking about the ceremony that would finally reveal humanity's true strength to their own people. For over 2 centuries, even most humans hadn't known about the Shadow Fleet. Now the secret was out, and humanity could finally take their rightful place among the galactic powers. On Earth, crowds gathered in major cities to watch the news broadcast showing the return of humanity's secret fleet. Ships that had been hidden for generations now flew proudly through Earth's skies, their crews finally able to reveal the sacrifices they had made to protect humanity's future. Dr. Janet Parker, addressing a crowd of reporters at the Pentagon, explained the scope of what had been accomplished. For 2 centuries, brave men and women have lived in secret, maintaining and improving these fleets while the rest of humanity went about their daily lives. They are the guardians who ensured our species would survive any threat. The Galactic database now listed humanity with a new designation: Major Military Power. Approach with respect. Other species studying the updated files realized that every assumption they had made about human capabilities had been completely wrong. Fleet Commander Zexthor, reviewing the battle reports in his damaged flagship, finally understood what his species had faced. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had revealed a level of military preparation that surpassed anything in galactic history. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "intelligence reports suggest that the human fleet we fought represents less than 30% of their total military capacity." Zexthor closed his eyes, realizing that the Zephyrian Empire had come within hours of total destruction. The humans could have wiped out every alien ship in the galaxy if they had chosen to do so. Jake Sullivan concluded his address to the Galactic Council with words that would be remembered for generations. Humanity has always believed that peace is preferable to war, but we have also learned that peace can only be maintained from a position of strength. Today, the galaxy has seen our strength. We hope it will not need to see it again. As the council session ended and the alien delegates filed out of the chamber, each species began the difficult process of adapting to a new galactic reality. Humanity was no longer the naive newcomer to be pushed around. They were a superpower that had been hiding their true nature for centuries. Captain Richards, looking out at his ancient fleet now flying proudly in Earth's sunlight, spoke to his crew one final time. "For over 200 years, we have carried the secret of humanity's true strength. Today, that burden is finally lifted. The warships that were older than empires have ensured that humanity's empire will endure for millennia to come." The galaxy had learned a lesson that would not be forgotten. When humans speak of peace, they do so from a position of strength that took centuries to build and only moments to reveal. The age of underestimating humanity was over, and a new chapter in galactic history had begun.